I slipped a rib, a couple of bulging discs. I ended up with an ACL, or sorry, an MCL tear. It was just like one thing after another.
Keith's 51-year-old. He thought that he was eating well. He was prioritising jiu-jitsu. He was even managing to lift a little bit off the mats as well. And this came extremely frustrating because his body was letting him down. And he had one injury, then that one turned into two, then three, then four, then five, then however many injuries he had at the same time. In this video, I'm going to show you how we deleted all 5 of them injuries. But before I go into that, my name is Paul Green. I'm a former British paratrooper and Special Forces support group operator. I've trained thousands of elite soldiers, and we have very limited time with these blokes, and we're expected to have maximum impact. Nowadays, I've built a program called the Longevity Program, in which I help grapplers delete their injuries and build their physical body armor so that they can stay on the mats for the rest of their lives. With Keith, the first thing I needed to do is basically put a rule in his brain, which was literally make or break for his jiu-jitsu career. I managed to get to him at the critical point, because if he continued on his current path, he was probably facing multiple surgeries, but the patterns he was currently living by would have made more injuries inevitable as well, right? So the first thing is, Keith, listen to me. This is extremely important. When you are injured, you need to prioritize weightlifting. When you are not injured, you need to prioritize jiu-jitsu. Without that rule in place, you have no longevity in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The second thing, I need to get some information. I need to get some data, right? And even though he said he eats well, I need to see proof of that. So I want to see photos. Show me your body composition. So once he shows me his body composition, I'm like, right, okay, this shows whether he's eating nutrient-dense foods. This shows his discipline with regards to his nutrition, and this shows how active he is. Because everybody thinks they're active, but when you see the true representation of whether you're eating well, whether you're moving well and training well, then it brings it to reality. There's no hiding, from your body composition. So I don't do that as a means to see whether he's got abs or he's ready for the beach. I do this as an insight into his current psychology, his thoughts, how he problem solves, and his beliefs. The next thing I need to do is I need to figure out of all of the injuries, which is the most important, because I am a pretty good coach. However, I cannot address all of these issues at the same time. And one thing I take away from my army career is when we were in a casualty evacuation scenario where there's multiple people with multiple injuries, we have to go straight to the one with the most life-threatening injury. We have to prioritize them. This is called triage. And exactly with Keith, I did the same thing. I basically triaged his injuries. But I didn't triage them on which one was the worst. Because if you ask yourself which one the worst was, it's obviously going to be the C-spine slip disc, multiple slip disc. That's the worst. However, in reality, that wasn't the worst. Because, on paper, that is the worst. But in reality, the worst one is the one that's negatively impacting the most amount of hours in his day. That wasn't his C-spine slip disc. The C-spine slip disc only had flare-ups every 3 or 4 months. So that was actually in a good place. I was like, right, okay, we can leave that. We can address that later. What is causing you the biggest negative impact in your quality of life every fucking day, right? And it was his internal rotator cuff. His shoulder was fucked. When he'd do jiu-jitsu, he'd come back on a night, his shoulder was throbbing, struggled to get to sleep, struggled to get comfortable. And then sometimes he was waking up, it was throbbing, it was uncomfortable, he was tossing and turning. Sleep quality massively negatively affected. Performance at work, then performance at jiu-jitsu. Everything is affected when you're only getting half the amount of sleep in which you need. So, I made that decision. The priority area first was his internal rotator cuff. However, I needed to figure out whether it was his internal rotator cuff. And I do that by sending him a joint functions test. So basically, this is my way of going, let me see how your shoulder is moving. I want you to point to where your symptom currently is, but I also want you to give me a pain rating out of 10 on how severe that symptom is as well. So you can start to understand how easy and how much data I've actually got on this person at the start. From there, I can build him a rehab prep plan on the isolation of that symptom. For example, if it's his internal rotator cuff and he gets pain when he's doing this internal rotation movement, I can build him 3 to 5 sessions in a week. Instead of 3 to 5 jiu-jitsu sessions, he does 3 to 5 rehab sessions strengthening his internal rotator cuff. I'm not going to get into tactics and exercises. I'm just giving you training philosophy here because that's way more valuable. Because this exact same process I used to fix his back, his neck, his ACJ, his MCL, all of these other issues, it's exactly the same process. Prioritize the areas that are causing you the biggest negative impact in your quality of life. But remember, focus on one, do it well, and then move on to the next. Like I said with Keith there, right? So we got rid of his shoulder issue, got rid of his shoulder symptoms, and then we started him doing pressing, started him doing shoulder pressing. At no point during that did he stop lifting because his issues and symptoms were gone. He just kept lifting. And he kept on that endless scale against gravity, lifting weights, because lifting weights is compulsory for the rest of his life from this point forward. If anything, all of these issues increased his motivation to do that, because there is just no way around this. If you're a man that feels like their body's falling to pieces and you still haven't got weightlifting into your week, it's just the reason why, right? And you can do all sorts of things to try and kid yourself that that's not the world that you need to live in. For example, you can change how you roll. You can do a lot of things. You can take a lot of supplements. You can get ice. There's a lot of different things that you can do to kid yourself that this isn't a reality. But think about it like this. Current capabilities and the demands in which you place on your body, right? You've got a choice. Do you increase your capabilities or do you reduce the demands? You as a man can increase your capabilities off the mats. Most people don't, but that's their problem, not yours. You can improve your capabilities, and it doesn't matter how many injuries you've got. Keith's perfect example of that. But you just have to break it down and make it ridiculously simple in your head. Focus on one most negatively impacting. And then when you go through the process of reducing the symptom in the most important one, you're going to be like, oh my God, it works. This shit works. And then you're going to attack the next issue with the same amount of enthusiasm, if not more enthusiasm. And then the next issue, because now you understand the concept works. And when you understand the concept works, very easy for you to go, okay, now I'm going to focus on my MCL. Now I'm going to focus on my lower back. And that's just the process. It doesn't work when you try and address everything at the same time. You need to make it simple and do one thing well rather than 5 or 10 things shite. Do you know what I mean? And I just pray that you can take some of them concepts into your own training. This is how I do it, and this is how I get amazing results on my program. And on YouTube, in my own weird way, I try and give you some of the most important things that you can literally just copy and paste into your own life. Because at the end of the day, a lot of fucking grapplers are struggling with this stuff. And they just don't know what to do. And if they made it simple for themselves, they would be able to sort this out. And that's what my channel is all about. That's it from me. I will see you tomorrow.